To my right, your left, at our head table today, you just heard from Pastor Steve. We appreciate him being here, and our board trustee Becky Richard. To my left, your right, we have our esteemed speaker today, Mr. Jeff Boals. Next to Jeff is our past president, and he'll be introducing our speaker today, Mr. Bill Costello. And here in front, of course, recording and streaming for us, TJ Downing with his Stark Media. We want to recognize our corporate sponsors up on the screens to both sides of me. First off, AultCare's Primetime Health, Dr. Peter Ferguson, Wilkshire Golf Course, and Liberty Ford. We appreciate their support. Announcements. Today is the last day to order your quarter zip pullovers for the banquet. If you're not attending banquet, you can still order one. They're $40. And all the different sizes are in the back. We want to do a special congratulations to somebody that made the news between last week and this, to our own club member, Doug Miller over here, for moving up to the 3rd place all time in the Ohio High School Baseball Wins Column. I also would like to announce today of a Luncheon Club board meeting that will take place next Monday, the 24th of April. It's for officers and trustees, not the new trustees, the ones that are current. The new trustees will go into effect next fall. That meeting will take place at 10 a.m. and again, it'll be in the back room. So please be on time. Should be a short meeting. And we'll have you out of there by 20 after at 10 at the latest, I would think. Happy to report there are no club deaths or illnesses that I've been made aware of today. And at this time we will, yeah, that's good. And at this time, thank you, Pastor. At this time we will pull the 50-50. Ozzy Osbourne, our past president, will have $168 for the winner, and we'll let Coach Jeff pull that for us today.
No pressure.
No pressure. Go shallow, deep, whatever you want. There you go. Thank you, sir.
Perfect. And before I forget, please turn your phasers off to stun, as they say, so that we have no interruptions. And the winning ticket today is 981. I know everybody's in right now.
Nope.
194. 981 194. And the winner's right over here. Carmen. All right. Perfect. Come on up. Way to go.
So it wasn't rigged.
It was not rigged. Jeff's got a great support group here today, and I'll let him maybe say some introductions of some special guests that are here with him today. Next week, our speaker will be Garrett Bush. He is a Cleveland radio host of The Barbershop on 92.3 FM, The Fan. And without further ado, I'm going to correct the mic because these guys are much taller than I am. Our past club president, Bill Costello, will introduce our speaker. Bill?
Thanks, Jim. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
I got a lot I got to say today, but they told me I'm on a pitch clock, so I'm going to try to get out of here before I intentionally walk somebody. So we have quite a Sandy Valley contingent here this morning. Raise your hand, Sandy Valley.
Hey, in the house.
That doesn't count the ones in the kitchen. So what's the word? What's the word? I don't know which one came first, that or the OH? I don't know. So what's the word? I also am a Sandy Valley graduate. I was there way before Jeff was. A lot of the things I did there were repaired before he started. Jeff was a great player at Sandy Valley and was a great player at Ohio U. Lettered 4 years at OU. He got 2 years he was the captain. After graduating, he spent several years coaching. I'm not going to list them all. Akron and Ohio State are the two ones that we would know because they're local. He spent the last 4 years at Ohio U. His first NCAA game as a coach, as a head coach. They beat the defending champion, Virginia, beat them 62-58. I remember watching that. So that was pretty cool. You want to know more about that game, you have to ask Jeff. Jeff is married to his wife Katie. They have 2 children, Sydney and Chase. I think I got ball 3, so without further ado, Mr. Jeff Boals.
Good afternoon. Always great to be back. Stark County, a lot of fond memories. I want to first publicly apologize to my mom because I ran into RJ at a Cleveland Cavaliers game. We took our whole team up to the Cavs-Clippers game. We have one of my former players with the Clippers, and RJ was with his son. Ran into him, asked me if I'd be interested in speaking. Said most definitely, love coming here, and boom, it was scheduled. Next thing you know, it's on Facebook, and I get a call from my mother scolding me for not telling her I was coming up here to speak. She had to find out on Facebook, so Mom, I'm sorry. First things first. But what RJ didn't tell you, this is going to be an NIL fundraiser for Ohio University. So the 50-50 drawing is going to go back into the collective pot. But when you read through the history of the luncheon, what a humbling experience to stand up here before you and to see kind of who's been here before to speak. And I don't think I'll ever beat Bob Huggins' record. He seems like he's here every year.
We'll see. He comes
slumped over. Tell the same stories every year, and they're still funny. Yeah. But last time I was here, a lot has changed since then. We were 10-12. I think it was February 3rd, 2020, and a month later, the world changed. And we ended up finishing strong that year, and we were actually playing up in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in our tournament. We had a 12 noon game, and our guys were out warming up, and 2 minutes later they come back in the locker room. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, we got a game, we got to warm up. And they said, well, we got to come back in, got to get our temperatures taken, doctor's got to sign off. I'm like, okay, see what's going on. And they go back out, and another 30 minutes go by, and they canceled the tournament. And I told my guys, I'll see you in a couple weeks. Well, weeks turned to months. And it was a trying, challenging time as a coach because there's no manual, a blueprint for what you had to go through. And we went through our own experiences with it. And fast forward to the following year, we were fortunate enough to go to the NCAA tournament and beat Virginia. And for me, it was a surreal moment. I consider myself a small town guy, Magnolia, Ohio. Sandy Valley, raised, love the morals and values that it taught me growing up. And I'm standing there in Assembly Hall where the Hoosiers play in the NCAA tournament, and I got Tony Bennett on the other sideline. And it's surreal for me. I'm looking like, what in the heck am I doing here? And next thing you know, we won. And it was a dream come true as a coach, and as coach can attest, I learned a long time ago, when you have really good players, you tend to be a really good coach. That year we had some really good players. And you know, the times have changed. These last 3 years of college basketball, you know, through the transfer portal and the name, image, and likeness collectives have completely changed the whole dynamics, which I know you guys will have some you know, questions about. But you know, it's a different time. You know, we went to the tournament, had a great year, lost to Creighton. The following year, we won 25 games, and you know, I had 2 first-team All-League guys coming back. That was on a Monday, and then 2 days later on a Wednesday, both of them were in the transfer portal. You know, one went to Virginia, one went to Alabama. 2 guys that make you a better coach. So this year was real trying for us. We brought 9 new players in. Our staff did a great job, and you know, when you bring so many new guys in, you get, you know, 13 scholarships. Normally have a roster of 15, maybe 2 walk-ons. And you know, it was challenging because, you know, every day it was something different. You had to keep coaching, keep teaching, keep educating. And we ended up finishing with 19 wins, lost in the semifinals to Toledo in our conference tournament, but we got better through the year. And I was proud of our guys and where we are. Next year, I think we're going to have a really good year. We got a commitment the other day from a young man in the transfer portal. We still have 2 scholarships available. And there used to be 4 seasons in a basketball year. The preseason, the regular season, the postseason, and an off season. The off season has been replaced by portal season. So every coach in the country is going portaling right now. It's almost like fishing, right? You know, normally go fishing and we're portaling. And there's just the dynamics changed. As of this morning, there was 1,415 kids in the portal. That's just Division I. And there's 363 Division I teams, and there's 13 scholarships. So there's roughly 30% of every Division I scholarship kid that's in the portal right now. You know, so you're looking at almost 4 kids per Division I team. And you know, when it happened to me, you know, it was different. You know, you weren't used to it. You know, you were used to, you know, guys' stability and consistency, and you know, we had to change with the times. And then now you throw in the whole name, image, and likeness collective. That's a whole different ball game. And you know, there's a lot of crazy you know, stories going around in the world of college recruiting. And you know, it'll be interesting to see where it goes the next 3 to 5 years. You know, with you know, what's going to happen. But I think for me, you know, just coming back here, being a Stark County guy, like I said, you know, read through that, you know, booklet, who's who. And last time I spoke up here, I think some of you guys know Bob Delap. He was my high school coach. That's the last time I saw him. You know, he was here. He passed away, you know, a little bit after that. You know, so I got fond memories of being here. Obviously, Chris and her husband for hosting this. You know, always a good time. But I think, you know, a couple of things. I love what I do. I was a biology major. When I came out of college, you know, I tore 3 ACLs myself, so I wanted to be a physical therapist. And I ended up, you know, coaching with Larry Hunter, who was my head coach. My first job, I made $6,000. And wasn't for my mom and dad, I would have never made it, probably would have quit. But they supported me, and just finished year 28, year 7 as a head coach. And a lot more gray hair than when I was at Ohio State and Akron. You know, when you become a head coach, you know, the stress and decisions you have to make. But I think, you know, you learn a lot of life lessons through it. And the biggest thing you kind of realize when you go through is why you coach. And once you understand why you coach, the impact you can have on young men, you know, from recruitment to matriculation to, you know, going through the ups and downs to graduating to, you know, their life after. And when we beat Virginia, probably the best thing for me was all the text messages I got from the guys I coached at Ohio State, Akron, Stony Brook, Robert Morris, Marshall, you know, University of Charleston. And you understand the impact you have on so many young people throughout your course of coaching. And you know, luckily for me, I'm at a place I love. It's my alma mater. I think I have 6 or 7 years left on my contract. You know, so who knows what's going to happen in the future? But you know, I feel good about where we're at right now. You know, we have a lot of returners coming back. We have 2 kids who graduated, but they could use their COVID year. So that's a whole different dynamic that's going on. Next year's class is the last year that can play an extra year of college basketball. So you know, these kids can play 5 years. Some of these kids have been in school for 6 years, you know, through redshirt and medical redshirt. So a lot of these guys are 24, years old, still playing college basketball. And we have one guy out of the two that are going to come back and use their 5th year. And we have a good core group coming back. We still have to get a couple of guys, like I mentioned. But it should be an interesting off season moving forward. But always great to come back here and speak to you guys and see a lot of familiar faces. Appreciate the support from all the Sandy Valley contingent. A lot of good memories over there. And just humbled and honored to be here. So any questions I can possibly answer?
On the transfer portal and the name, image, and likeness, how's that all work together? I mean, if you have an NIL with, say, Virginia, and you want to transfer to OU, do you lose that?
Yeah,
Trying to get one at OU? Or?
So there's a couple different ways to do it. So the true intent of name, image, and likeness is where I can use your name, image, or likeness to help my company out, or you can have a T-shirt merchandise line. You can run your own camps using your name, whereas before you couldn't do that. So you might sign a contract with a company, and you might do sponsorships, video messages, appearances for that company. And that's a contract between you and the company, and that can carry over wherever. Some of these collectives that are out there, it's really pay for play, where you sign with a collective of that school. The school doesn't run it; it's an outside person. But normally those contracts are about maybe 8 months. They go normally month to month, kind of renew every year in case somebody does leave. Yeah, it's a whole different ball game.
What would you personally do to better the NIL and transfer portal? What changes?
I've played the lottery like every week. And I would donate $10 million to a practice facility, $10 million to my collective. I'd probably try to buy a national championship contending team, maybe retire and try to see if I can be a GM. But I haven't won yet, so I'm still working on that. I think it's going to change. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, I believe it'll end up being like revenue sharing, kind of like pro sports. Right now, I think the toothpaste out of the tube, it's on the sidewalk, and they're trying to, put it back in the tube. And I don't think there's a great answer. The NCAA has gotten sued multiple times and lost, and kind of left it up to each school, each league, each state. And you have a lot of state laws, and if Alabama changes their NIL law, like Mike DeWine's getting a call, from somebody, saying, hey, we got to match what they're doing. And I think the NCAA was hoping that Congress would pass a federal law where every state was the same, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I think it's a fluid deal. I do agree that these young people, should get something. What? I'm not real sure, but I think in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to change even more.
And these COVID players are going to be playing. What are their course requirements to be eligible and be able to play?
Yeah, so I think with my couple kids, my kids have used this to their benefit. We had Dwight Wilson who graduated. He was really played 5 years, was in school for 6. He has his undergraduate degree and 2 master's degrees. So I think a lot of them are using it the right way. I think the issue you get into when these kids are transferring school to school to school is how many credit hours transfer. I think that's another concern, that how many schools accept, certain hours that from a different school, and are these kids going to be on pace to graduate? So I think most of them are using it the right way to further their education. I can't speak for most other people's, but in our situation, our guys have got multiple master's degrees because of it.
You're still going and hustle for the high school kids or not?
That's a great question. So the high school recruiting has changed. The 2024 class will be the last year that's affected by the COVID extra year of eligibility. And if you look at the transfer portal, if you look at a lot of these coaches who are on the hot seat or need to win, or you lose your best players, you're not going to replace that talent with a high school kid. So the first thing you're going to do is go into the transfer portal. And it's kind of a catch-22. A lot of times in the transfer portal, you might get initial phone call, another phone call, Zoom, FaceTime, get a kid on campus, it might be 2 or 3 weeks where you have a relationship, with this transfer. Whereas a high school kid, you kind of build that through time, get them to campus multiple times. And, it's difficult right now. My daughter, she's a sophomore at Florida State, she's a swimmer. She was in that COVID era where she couldn't visit any schools. Everything was on Zoom or they did it on their own, couldn't meet with coaches. And, you fast forward the effects of the extra year eligibility, these high school kids aren't getting the same recruitment that they normally would. The 2025 class will be the first, year where it's kind of refreshed. But, the 22, 23, 24 classes have all been affected by it. And, like I said, you only get 13 scholarships. That's every Division I school basketball-wise. So, we lose 3, 4 guys, we might bring in 2 or 3 portal kids where normally we bring in, 2, 3, 4 high school kids. So it's affected them in a negative way. And, a lot of people call and ask, what do they think I should do? And number one, if you get offered a scholarship, whether it's Division I, II, III, NAIA, whatever it is, you might want to think about taking it instead of waiting. And, I think, it's difficult, it's hard.
2 questions. One, to kind of piggyback off of that, does that allow a MAC school or a school like you guys to be able to take a shot at what was maybe a McDonald's All-American who might have gone to Duke, or now that they're not getting recruited as hard, is that going to allow the MAC to maybe get some more higher end high school basketball players on the court?
First question? Want me to answer that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, there are some kids that are going to fall through the cracks. There's only so many scholarships every year. There's only so many high school kids, so many portal kids, so many junior college kids, so many international kids that you can recruit. So what we've been doing, I tell my guys, let's recruit 10 to 15, high major players that we know we can't get, okay? Thinking in a year, 2 years, 3 years, they're gonna transfer. Now, right, we have a relationship with them, and it's easier to come back to eventually, trying to get them on a transfer rebound. So I think, we try to recruit those kids, and I do think there'll be some guys who normally would go higher that'll get lost in the cracks, especially with this COVID year of eligibility, that'll go someplace. And, with the one-time transfer rule, like we had a kid 2 years or last year, he was a first-team All-League, averaged 20 points a game. Nobody really recruited him out of high school, comes to our place, plays well for 2 years, and transfers to Alabama. So I think you might see a lot of that, happen as well.
Second part of it was, and it's different for me because when I played, if you were going in league transfer, you had to sit out 2 years. What I think could potentially be cool, and I don't know if you're seeing any of this yet, but do you see some guys in the transfer portal that, we were buddies coming in through high school and now we're going to maybe try and form a super team?
Yeah, I'm not sure the super team, but it does happen. And I think, when you go through it, the interleague transfer rule used to be, you couldn't do it, or if you did do it, you have to sit out 2 years, maybe pay your own way for a year. Well, that's all changed with the lawsuits that have happened. So now you can pretty much transfer anywhere you want and not have to sit out if it's your first time transfer, or if you're a graduate student. And, in our league, in the Mid-American Conference, there's been multiple situations where guys have left one team and went to another team in our league. And I think there's familiarity, right? You know who the kid is, how they play, what they're like, and they know who you are, so it might be easier. But we had a young man on our team who knew a player that was transferring, came and visited. They played AAU together in high school, and he committed to us. So I think relationships do matter and help. And we ask our guys, like, hey, is any of your friends out there who are transferring that preferably 6'10" and above. But I don't want to be too picky.
What happens if one of the 13 ACL or something like that, is it still 13? Does he keep one of those scholarships, or you have any flexibility there?
Yeah, a lot of it depends. If they can't play anymore, if they're done for their career, they'll get a medical disqualification where that scholarship doesn't count towards your 13. We had a young man, Dwight Wilson, who tore his ACL the year after we won the Virginia game. So he sat out a whole year, but we kept his scholarship for him because he was going to play this past year. So it counted as one of our 13. So I think there's different scenarios involved. And, you know, one rule a lot of people don't know about these transfers, you know, some coaches try to run a kid off or, you know, not going to play. If TJ, if you're on my team and, you know, I tell you you're not going to play and kind of get rid of him, and he doesn't go into another school and just stays at Ohio University, that scholarship's going to count as one of my 13s, which is a rule kind of a lot of people don't know about. That way the kid's not impacted if he does leave and doesn't get a scholarship offer anywhere else and wants to stay, you know, he's not going to be hurt by that.
With all these, you know, you're saying 1,400 kids in the portal, not including all the seniors that are coming into high school, you visualize like, where are they going to go? Are they going to be like more G leagues, or are they going to go more international, or are there going to be other leagues to like a minor league, let's say basketball, in order for them to get into collegiate league or some other place?
Yeah, I think that's the scary part. You know, there's only so many opportunities available. Coach Young, where's Coach Young at? See you around? In the back. You know, Coach Young at Walsh, I mean, he's been hit harder than anybody. You know, his kids all up transfer and play well. And obviously a testament to his recruiting and development. But it's difficult because you're replacing these kids. And some of these kids go in the portal thinking there's going to be grandeur vision and grandeur, like, you know, bigger place, but they don't get what they want. You know, there's not a lot of, you know, positions out there. And I tell kids that a lot of times if you go in, you better know where you're going, you know, before you get there. Because you might get out there and it's a different world. And you know, I always say the grass isn't greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it. But some of these, you know, people think that it's going to be bigger, better, you know, somewhere else. But that's the scary thing about it. There's going to be a lot of these kids that don't have a place to go. And this 1,415 kids, that's just Division I. That doesn't count Division II, NAIA, JUCOs. You know, there's probably 3,000 more, and there's only so many spots available. And you know, back when I played, you know, my first year I played 39 minutes my whole first year. Like, I wasn't good enough to play, and I had to figure out how to get in the court. You know, now you transfer. You know, back then you worked harder, you bought your time, you know, you respected the pecking order, and you tried to get on the court. And between my freshman and sophomore year, I was able to do that. But you know, it's easy to quit, it's easy to leave. You know, I think you look at the whole high school AAU, you know, scene, and these kids going high schools to prep schools, AAU team to AAU team, you know, the first sign of adversity. And you know, a lot of coaches have talked about that. Just, you know, kids being able to fight through adversity, buying their time, working harder, you know, understanding the value of it. But you know, it's easy to leave, and I think there's going to be a lot of kids that are, you know, stuck, maybe with not anything available. It's a great question.
Can those kids come back to you?
If they go in the portal, so the question is, if they go in the portal, can they come back? They can come back, but my personal philosophy, I probably won't take them back. You know, I think, you know, my belief is, you know, love those who love you. You know, I want guys who have 2 feet in. Not 1 foot out the door trying to find something different. You know, I think there's different scenarios involved, but you know, I'm going to go with the guys who want to be there, that are going to, you know, come to battle every day. And I think even as a teammate, you know, like a couple years ago, we had a young man leave, Jason Carter, when I got the job. He transferred to Xavier, and you know, he was wanting to transfer back, and I went to my 2 best players and said, hey, do you guys want him back? You know, he didn't really leave me, he left you guys. And both of them said, hey, he'll fit our culture, our system, you know, a great system guy. So after about 3 or 4 conversations, you know, Jason and I talked, and, you know, we accepted him back. But you can take him back, but personally, I don't think I would.
So that decision is yours?
Pretty much. Yeah, and, you know, it's tough. I think, you know, we always look for high character guys that love the game of basketball, want to be pros, and serious about their degree. And I think, you know, if a kid wants to leave, you know, it depends on why he wants to leave. You know, there's a lot of factors involved. So I would say I definitely wouldn't take him back, but 99.9999% probably wouldn't. It's a good questions.
Recognizing you may not be able to say a lot about this, but what kind of money is being thrown around in the NIL?
How much time you got? Yeah, I think it's changed. Like these collectives, definitely impact recruiting. And there's stories out there. Like obviously, I don't know personally, but you talk to other coaches and different agents. But there's agents out there that are calling kids to represent them as a marketing rep. And those agents get 15 to 20% of the whatever money that kid's going to get. And a lot of times it's like, if I'm representing you, I'm gonna call this school, that school, this school, and what can you offer them? Well, they can offer them this. What can you offer them? Well, hey, he came back with this, and it's kind of a system right now that I don't think is great. And it's definitely out there. And you're talking, a lot of the bigger schools, the better players, 6 figures plus. So I think it's next 2-3 years. It's gonna, it'll be interesting to see where that happens. And then, like I said, 3 to 5 years, I think it'll, change the whole system.
Tom Izzo has come out and he's against this transfer portal. How do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think a kid should have an opportunity to do what they'd like. But I think for some of the reasoning, I don't agree with, what these kids want. And a lot of it might be money driven. It might be a bigger, school. And there's statistics. When I was at Stony Brook University before this, we had I think one of my best players up transferred. So went from a mid major to a high major. And we did a statistical analysis of all the kids that up transferred, and pretty much everything was cut in half when they went to a high major. Minutes, points, rebounds, you name it. And a lot of times these kids, think they need to play at a high level to go to the NBA or play pro. There's different scenarios why they leave. So I think it depends on why they leave and what they really want out of it. I think it's just a changing time. It's a different time. I think a lot of the reasons why these kids leave, I don't think are great, but I think a lot of them do transfer for the right reason. And it's hurting more the lows and the mids, I think, than the highs, because our better players are leaving and going up. Coach Izzo's been doing this a long time and seen a lot. Having great respect for him. Like I said, 2 years ago we had a 25-win team, 2 first-team All-League guys coming back. One guy goes to Virginia, one guy goes to Alabama. We would have been, I think, really, really good that year. But they left for different reasons, and as a coach, you got to respect it and figure it out pretty quick, because no one's going to feel sorry for you, and you got to kind of recycle how you do things.
With all this, it's probably pretty hard to predict who was the favorite in the MAC.
I'm glad you said that. Like they send us this preseason deal, like who's all MAC, who's going to win the league. I'm like, I have no idea who's on what team or how good this transfer is. So I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to tell the Mid-American Conference the same thing. Like, I have no idea. And you really don't know, because if you look at a lot of schools around the country, the impact of transfers, if you look at the better teams, they kind of hit on those transfers. And you look at some teams who didn't win this year, like their transfers, didn't produce. So I think a lot of it's a crapshoot in a sense, like, you're rolling the dice, you don't really know what you're getting. You're hoping you do. But, certain schools, certain teams do it different ways. Arkansas, he's done a phenomenal job in the transfer portal getting these kids. He revamped his whole roster, I think, off an Elite 8 team, and made a great run this year. And, sometimes you don't know what you're getting, sometimes you do. But, if you look at the teams who were successful taking transfers, those transfers came in and made an impact. But, yeah, you really don't know.
Who's going to win the battle for LeBron's son?
It's a great question. I really can't comment on any recruits, but he's going to be a great player. He's going to be good.
Do you think they'll ever change just putting one team in March Madness, maybe 2 from your conference?
Yeah, I think the way this whole thing's set up, it's really for the Power 5, the high majors, because they do the net rating, and when you do the net rating, the quad 1, quad 2 wins and losses, strengthen your net rating. And the thing about, if you look at the Big Ten, they got 20 opportunities every year, probably 18 with a quad 1, quad 2 win. where we might get 1 or 2 if we play somebody in a non-conference. And, we struggle to get those games. When I was at Stony Brook, I think we won 5 straight bye games. This year we played Michigan, should have beat them, lost to them in overtime. And when you do that, they don't want to play you. So the opportunities for us aren't really there. And then we go through our league play, and our league isn't as strong at the bottom. So I think it's really set up. Back when I played, we got a couple teams in multiple times and had a lot of pros. We're trying to do everything we can as a conference to be able to do that, but a lot of it goes back to the quad 1, quad 2, and who you play, and we just don't have those opportunities. So
you see in the newspaper a lot of times there's a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. How is the ranking determined, and who determines that?
There might be a couple people in this room that determine that. I think it's these recruiting scouting services. A lot of these guys that go every weekend, or they go to these camps that have access to these kids. I think that's even a crapshoot sometimes. Some people say stars matter, some people say stars don't matter, and a lot of times as a coach, I might get a recruiting service and see these names on a list and kind of go through them, but there's no exact science. I think a lot of times you got to go with your eyes a little bit more than what you do on a paper. I think Matt Painter is probably one of the best at that. He's a guy that recruits to his system. Does a really good job of developing those guys, and if you look at a lot of those kids, look at Zach Eady. He was ranked probably 450th, in the country, and a guy just won the Naismith Player of the Year. So I think it's great. I think for names to see, because these recruiting service, scouting service people, see these kids probably more than coaches do. But a lot of times you got to go with your heart and your gut.
What is the difference between image and likeness?
So the difference between name, image, and likeness really, so if you're a company or if you're somebody who wants to, use my name, image, or likeness to help promote your company, I'll sign a contract and you can use my name any way you want, image any way you want. If you have a fundraiser and want me there to, do a signing, take pictures with people, you kind of own the rights to my name and image. And if somebody makes a merchandise, clothing line, they could put their own, name or logo or decal on a T-shirt and be able to sell that as well. But I think the rules interpret it a little differently. So I think you really own the rights to my name, image, and likeness. And if you look at it, I don't know if you guys know Luka Doncic. He was like 13, 14 years old as a pro, and he signed off his rights, to his mom because he was a minor, and she still owns the rights to his name, image. Like, he can't sell, his jerseys and any merchandise because she still owns it. So that's basically what I'm doing, is sign them over my name, image, and likeness to you, depending on how long the contract is.
Being a coach, what's your opinion of the NCAA hierarchy?
Next question. No, I think it's different. This whole NCAA is evolving in a different way, and I think it's going to impact a lot of the Olympic sports eventually. It's going to impact mid-major teams. I'll be interested to see kind of where it goes. It's not the amateur. When I played back in the 90s, when you played, it's completely different. And I think the NCAA's gotten so many lawsuits. They're trying to, give the leagues more, control what they do, how they do it, what rules they want. But like I said, next 3 to 5 years, I think it's going to change even more. So all great questions.
Does OU have a big rivalry game every year in the MAC? What team?
We do. Miami of Ohio is our rival. Battle of the Bricks, two of the first schools in the Midwest. OU and Miami. So the Battle of Bricks. I don't know if you ever been to either Oxford or Athens. So pretty much all the streets are all bricks. So we painted our court and put bricks around the court. So it's our big Ohio State, Michigan.
You play Akron U every year?
We do.
Home and away?
Yeah, home and away.
Can the student use the school's name on the NIL?
You know, certain schools can sign off where they can, you know, wear their apparel. It used to be where you couldn't do anything. So, you know, one of our guys would have to wear like a green shirt, you know, to be able to do something like that. Some schools allow their kids to do commercials or, you know, videos in the arena that they play in. So it just depends on kind of school.
Yeah, college basketball is so exciting the last couple of years because they didn't have that team like Kentucky and Duke that would easily, you know, the ones and dones that seemed like they were going to win it all the time. And I would think that this name into your likeness has helped level the field a little bit out with that. I don't know if you can speak as.
Yeah, I think the parity, if you saw this year's Final Four, right? I mean, that's never happened. You had 3 like non-Power 5 schools in it. And I think the NCAA eventually, they would love to have a St. Peter's make an Elite 8 run and then lose. You know, they want the Dukes, the Kentuckys, the, you know, Blue Bloods in the Final Four for, you know, obvious reasons. But I think you will see some parity with that. And, you know, the head coach, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, you know, he said when a lot of coaches are going to interview for jobs, their first question is going to be not how good your facilities are, you know, what your scholarships are, like how good's your collective. You know, how much money do you have in your collective? And really that's, you know, kind of how good your job's going to be able to go out and, you know, recruit. So I think there'll be some parity involved. Somebody back here.
You know, you have the NIL for student athletes, okay? What do you think about the academic part? Like you have somebody that's great in medicine, or science, business, you know, don't you think that they should be getting some type of recognition or monetary, you know, to use it for their expertise?
I think if you go back to the whole deal, an athlete normally could do something that a normal student could do. And that's where, if you have a prodigy in music, they can go play in a orchestra and get paid to do it at whatever, you know, they don't have these rules. So I think that it's a fine line, because that was one of the things they argued about. You know, these other kids don't have rules. They can transfer when they want to. Like they can go to a different school and it doesn't matter. So I think that was kind of tied into, you know, an athlete kind of being like a regular student, you know, having an opportunity to do that. And obviously athletes are more visible on TV more, make more appearances. But like I said, it's a different time, and you know, it's way different than when I started, and I think it's going to be, you know, completely different next 3-5 years.
What's the future hold as far as discussion between OU and West Virginia playing each other?
That's a good question. With all these recruits Hugs getting, I might not want to skip one year. He's getting a lot of really good players, but you know, I think we call. I mean, if I showed you a list of high major schools we called, and we're told no, and I get it. Like I've been on that side. I was at Ohio State for 7 years, and you know, you played 20, you know, Big Ten games, and you know, Big Ten hasn't done well in the NCAA tournament. They just beat each other up all year long, and you know, so those probably 8 to 10 games that they get to schedule, you know, that's why you see like the Alabama States and, you know, some other schools that they play. Instead of playing us, like Akron should have beat Ohio State a couple years ago, and I call every year. You know, they won't play us, but I get it. You know, I don't know if I'd play us either.
A two-part question. You recruited Northeast Ohio pretty hard, and then how are the kids different today when you played and what they are today?
Yeah, we do recruit Northeast Ohio. We have a young man from Brush, Elmore James, who made the all-freshman team for us. Going to be a great player. You know, you always try to identify, you know, kids up this way. A lot of really good basketball coaches, a lot of great players, and you know, it's a different era. I think with the visibility these young people have with social media, you know, you can't hide anymore. You know, wherever. You know, you're going to be seen on video. Somebody's going to know about you. And I think on the flip side, it's a negative. Like there's so many distractions, you know, that all these young people have, you know, every single day. And you know, back when I played, we were joking about the other day. Our coach might call our dorm room. You know, you got the answer machine, right? Leave a message. hey, call me when you get this, it might be 6 hours, right? Because you're gone all day from your dorm room. Now, if a kid doesn't text you back or call you in 5 minutes, you're like, hey, where you at? Why don't you call me back? And so I think just it's a different era of these young people, and you know, I think they play too much AAU. You know, a lot of these kids play every single weekend, and I'm not sure if it evolves into injuries or overuse, but you know, it's something every weekend that these high school kids are doing, and you know, when they get to college, you know, it's a intensity goes up even more.
Do you have to deal with a lot of recruiting services?
You know, maybe not the recruiting services. You know, normally you want to identify, I call them the externals, people around the kid. Could be an AAU coach, high school coach, aunt, uncle, brother, somebody who's close to the recruit. And you try to really just circle that recruit up and talk to everybody, so you know that recruit's hearing the same thing from mom, dad, uncle, aunt, AAU coach, high school coach. You know, when you try to recruit them.
How do you explain these smaller Jesuit universities like FAU? I don't know if they are parochial or not, but look how well they did, and you know they're not that big. I never even heard of them.
Yeah, I think if you look at a lot of them, you know, it's the first time they've ever been to the, I think, a tournament maybe. You know, they make an unbelievable run. I think when you get to the NCAA tournament, you got to be really good. You know, you got to have talent, but it's a lot of it's luck, a lot of it's draw, who you play. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But you know, for them, they were kind of a different model because they're really young. You know, they have pretty much their whole team coming back. Normally, when you see the mid-major teams making a run, like look at Butler, you know, back when they made their back-to-back Final Fours, those guys were all older. You know, you get the seniors and juniors, you know, playing against the one-and-done teams, you know, that might not have the experience. So I think it's.
As a no-name, how do they recruit these kids?
Yeah, you know, they're centers from overseas. You know, really good player that maybe not a lot of people knew about. You know, might be a underdeveloped guy, because a lot of times we can't. When I was at Ohio State, you recruited like a ready-made kid. You know, Jared Solinger could come in and play right away on anyone's team. You know, when we try to look at somebody, we can add 30 pounds to a muscle or maybe lose 30 pounds. You know that might have great passing vision. You know, my point guard Jason Preston is a prime example. You know, he was 6 feet tall, 140 pounds when he graduated high school. He came to OU at 6'3", 160 after his freshman year. Coach got fired, I came in. You know, he got 20 pounds stronger, and he always had the skill level. He just didn't have the strength. And you know, now he's in the NBA. And so I think, you know, at our level, you got to develop those kids. You have to, you know, see a little differently than you would at a high major school. And I think the parity, you know, even more so. And you know, nowadays it's scary because those kids could all leave, right? You know, they get all this visibility, they play really well. I'm sure during the course of the tournament, they had people reaching out to, you know, their coaches, trying to get them to see if they're going to transfer. So hopefully they stay together.
Are you concerned at all about the effect of sports betting on college sports?
Ooh, that's a whole different. Yeah, like, you know, it's legal in Ohio now, and you know, I think you'll see, you know, some places, you know, definitely pro arenas where you're going to put, you know, sports books, you know, in there. It is a scary thing for a college kid. You know, I mean, the whole aspect of, you know, gambling and I mean, when I was at Ohio State, even when I was at OU, we used to get letters in the mail, like betting receipts. You know, we might sub in our bench at the end and we're up 12 and, you know, the other team scores 4 points and they lose the bet. Like, you'd be amazed at what people send in because Johnny lost $100, you know, because we did the right thing and, you know, put our bench in. Yeah, I should have kept all those and wrote a book. But I think that's a whole different, you know, dimension to it that you have to worry about. You know, we educate our guys as much as possible. They can't bet on any NCAA championship sport. I think they can bet on, or they can play bingo. Maybe horses. I don't know. There's like boxing. Maybe there's a couple things they're legally allowed. Yeah.
What age do colleges start looking at kids? Late high school, early high school? Or,
Yeah, so the question is what age we look at. When I was at Ohio State, you know, we look at 8th going to 9th grade. We got a couple commitments, you know, from a couple kids like that. At our level, we'll start tracking them as freshmen, seeing them develop, how they get better. But it's completely different now. Now it's like you might lose a kid, and the first thing we do is go to the portal. And like every league, we look at who's the first team all league in these lower leagues to see who might leave. Because you have to be prepared for it, you have to be ready for it. But I think you always have a feel for, these next 2 weeks we're allowed to go out recruiting, but we're going to have visits. So we're not going to be able to go see these high school kids play, which hurts the high school kids. It hurts us in an evaluation phase. So I think it's different.
You've used this term collective several times. Is that somewhat synonymous with the boosters of old?
Yeah, it's kind of a legal way to do it now. These collectives have to be an external person. It can't be affiliated with the university, someone who works at the university. So it might be an alumnus, a former player, a businessman who's an alum that kind of starts a 501c3 and kind of goes that whole route.
We're talking about, portals and that collegiately. How about in high school now? It seems like more kids are transferring to make super teams or IMGs or whatever. What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think kids leave for different reasons, but I think I'd love to see a study of the kids that jump around high school to prep school, AAU. They transfer. If they transfer when they get to college, be interesting to kind of see that statistic. But I think it does start then, and you see it in AAU, if a kid's not playing as much as he wants, or mom and dad don't think so, they pull the kid, put him on a different team. I think it starts then, and I think they're synonymous.